Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public board meeting of the Halton District School Board. Tonight, we have staff and trustees, both in person and online, for this board meeting. We will be using the Crestron system for both voting and speaking. Please be cognizant of the speaking order and wait for the chair or the vice chair to recognize you in both private and public session. I am going to start, before we go into private session, with roll call. Trustee Ahmed.
Yes, Chair.
Trustee Amos.
Good evening.
Trustee Baxter.
Present.
Trustee Collard.
I'm here.
Trustee Daniele.
Thank you, I'm here.
Trustee Diodati.
Present.
Trustee Gray.
All the way from Halton Hills.
Trustee Oliver.
Good evening.
Trustee Rocha. Vice Chair Rocha.
Here.
Thank you very much. And Trustee Zhang.
Here. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Director Ennis, can you please let us know what staff are in attendance this evening?
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. Good evening, everyone. We have a full complement of staff to support the meeting, both online and in person. We have a couple of staff members who are not present at the moment, dealing with some urgent issues, but will join us later.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Trustee Ahmed, would you like to make a motion to move into private session?
I do, Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Amos, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Is there any debate? All right. Are there any objections to moving into private session? Seeing none, we are now in private session. Vice Chair Rocha, the floor will be yours in a couple of minutes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public meeting of the Halton District School Board. The date today is December the 7th, 2022. I would like to welcome our guests, both in the gallery and online. Thank you so much for coming. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you all that conversations and respectful debate are the hallmarks of our board. To both our inner and our outer circle within the board, please be mindful of your tone, your language, and of course your timekeeping. For those in our gallery, we welcome you this evening. And please note that the Halton District School Board is committed to providing a safe, secure, and respectful environment for all. Words or actions that make others feel threatened or demeaning will not be tolerated, and decisive action will be taken to ensure the safety and comfort of all. But I'm sure that won't happen tonight. Although many of us are here, we have been lucky enough to be flexible to work with those people who aren't able to be here. We use a hybrid approach for this meeting, allowing people to attend either in person or online. With many new faces at the table, it's also important that we continue to create a safe and respectful discourse to guide us through our meeting. So as we did roll call prior to private session, I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge both Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang. Good evening to the two of you. Director Ennis, I know that you had said there were a couple of people who might be joining us later, so I'll just pass it over to you for a second.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening, everyone, trustees and staff and visitors. We have a full complement of staff here to support the meeting. Some are online, and a few others are dealing with some urgent matters who will be joining us later.
Thank you so much. Tonight, Trustee Oliver will be honoring the land.
Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Arawandron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us. And before I end, on behalf of my colleague trustees, I would like to thank Nancy Rowe for hosting us at the Roundhouse at the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and for, along with Tammy Hardwick and Gabi Echeverria, facilitating a day of learning. Miigwech.
Thank you very much, Trustee Oliver. So the first meeting of each month is designated as a time to formally acknowledge the History and Heritage Month as identified by the Government Ontario. December has no History or Heritage Months for this month. However, it is an important week for the Halton District School Board, as it is the week that, starting tomorrow, our Human Rights Symposium takes place. The theme this year is Environmental Rights, which explores the interconnectedness of globalization, environment, Indigenous rights, human rights, and our collective responsibility to protect the planet. I hope staff and students are ready to be inspired by our two keynote speakers, Sheila Watt-Cloutier and Kikashan Basu. Throughout the week, students and staff are encouraged to share what they are learning through social media through the hashtag Environmental Rights HDSB. I look forward to learning, growing, and challenging my thinking in relation to the environmental rights that we will be discussing. Next, we are up to the agenda. Trustee Baxter, would you like to move a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
And Trustee Collard, would you like to second that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the agenda? And again, seeing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. In relation to our agenda this evening, are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Again, seeing none, we're now up to my favorite part of the evening, delegations and presentations to the board. And because, again, it's the first meeting of the month, first off, we have the Inspire Awards. An Inspire Award is given to an individual or group that is formally or informally associated with the Halton District School Board, who support our students and their achievement through exemplary caring, initiative, innovation, and creativity. Tonight, we have 8 awards to present. We will be using the presentation created by Heather Francie in the Communications Department. Before each presentation, I will name the recipient and the name of the trustee presenting the award. Okay, just give me a second because I have to find the presentation. Hold on, just a quick technical issue. Okay. There we go.
That was great.
First off, we have Karen Langford, who is from Bruce T. Lindley Public School. The trustee for this school is Shunyi Sheng, but as he's not here, I will present the award, read the award this evening. Karen Langford is an educational assistant at Bruce T. Lindley Public School. Karen is one of the most kind and caring individuals at Bruce T. Lindley. She greets her students with a smile and ensures that they get where they need to be safely. Karen always goes above and beyond to make students feel welcome, connected, and loved. Her kind nature makes kids and adults feel included and comfortable. The Bruce T. Lindley Public School community is so lucky to have her. Congratulations, Karen, and I'm sure Shin Lee will be awarding you this presentation at your school soon. Thank you very much. Our next presentation is for Christina Grant from Boyne Public School with the trustee Naveed Ahmed. Trustee Ahmed will be presenting this later to Christina at the school, but I will read the presentation for this evening. Christina Grant is a planning teacher at Boyne Public School. Christina is caring, inspiring, and empowers her students to be the best they can be. She takes the time to ensure that each and every student is taken care of. Christina has an amazing sense of care for her students, and she continues to inspire them. Congratulations, Christina. Next up, we have Joanna Nikolic from John William Voigt Public School. She is here this evening. And Trustee Collard will be presenting the award. Joanne Nikolic is the Vice Principal at John William Voigt Public School. Joanne is outstanding in her role, and she has helped so many students in so many ways. from checking in on classes to creating a safe and welcoming school environment by preventing bullying and harassment. She always has her door open for students to come in and share ideas or just to chat. Joanne takes the feedback of her students to heart, and she has created a number of opportunities within her school for engagement and involvement through new clubs and much more. A valuable resource for students and staff, the John William Boyd community is so lucky to have her. Congratulations. Next up is Ian Duncan from Garth Webb Secondary School. Trustee Oliver will be presenting it in person at the school at a later date, but will also be reading the award tonight.
It is my great pleasure to present the Inspire Award to Ian Duncan, who is a teacher at Garth Webb Secondary School. Ian has been a compassionate leader at Garth Webb for years, and he is an incredible advocate for the 2S LGBTQ+ community. As an openly queer educator, Ian has experienced discrimination throughout his teaching career. However, he has never wavered. Ian takes his experiences and turns them into a learning opportunity for himself and for others. He helped to create the SAGE Club, which spreads awareness about 2S LGBTQ+ issues and provides a place for 2S LGBTQ+ students and allies to have lunch and feel welcome and valid in their identities. Ian goes above and beyond for his students and provides a supportive, kind, and caring learning environment. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Trustee Oliver, and congratulations, Ian. Our next award is for Lisa Gillies from Brookville Public School, and Trustee Daniele will be reading the award this evening.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to present this award and tell you about Lisa. Lisa is a planning teacher at Brookville Public School. She always has the best interest of her students in mind, providing care and attention to every child in her classroom. Not only is Lisa fantastic with her students, she is approachable for parents, providing guidance and support wherever it's needed. Lisa is also the staff representative at Brookville Public Schools Parent Council. Her enthusiasm, leadership, and engagement is what makes her such a great teacher. Lisa, thank you for all that you do, and congratulations.
Congratulations, and thank you so much, Trustee Daniele. Next up is Tricia Roshka from Mackenzie Smith Bennett Public School. I got it right? Did I? I practice lots. And Trustee Gray will be presenting the award, and I will be reading it. I get to say it again. I got to do it again. Tricia Roshka is a teacher at Mackenzie Smith Bennett Public School. Tricia consistently goes above and beyond for her students. This year, she demonstrated her compassionate, caring, and flexible nature as she welcomed a new student into her class who had previously received one-on-one EA support in the classroom. Tricia enables her students to excel and reach goals they never knew were possible. She demonstrates the value of equity and inclusion every day in her classroom, and her students are better off as a result. Tricia is an example of how the best teachers can support all learners with compassion and can help students find success even in the most challenging circumstances. Thank you so much, Tricia, and congratulations. Thank you so much. Our next Inspire Award winner is Judy Orlemans from Park Public School. And Trustee Gray again will be presenting this in person at a later date at the school or maybe at the crossing guard location. Already done. She's already done it. She did it this afternoon. So I will just quickly read the presentation so everybody knows what a wonderful crossing guard Judy is. Judy. Judy Orlemans is a crossing guard in the Park Public School community. Judy is genuine, thoughtful, caring, funny, and always smiling. Every morning, Judy greets her community with a huge smile. Students light up when they see her, and it's not uncommon to hear, "Hi, Judy," from a passing vehicle. Rain or shine, Judy is there. On special occasions, Judy even hands out treats for students on their way home. This year, she even handed out school supplies. In the year of her retirement, Judy is so incredibly deserving of this award. While it's time for her to pass the stop sign on, the Park Public School community is better off, and thanks, Judy, for all of her dedication. Thank you so much, Judy. And last but not least, we have Brian Slemko and Allison Miller from Rattlesnake Public School, and Trustee Ahmed will be presenting. Come on down. Brian Slemko and Allison Miller are principal and vice principal at Rattlesnake Point Public School, a brand new HDSB school that opened this year. Through all the daily changes of the school that is yet to be completed, they have managed to create a space for teachers to work collaboratively with one another. Brian and Allison have done an incredible, awe-inspiring job fostering a culture of care, innovation, creativity, and inspiration at Rattlesnake Point Public School. Without strong leaders at the helm during a new school opening, it would be easy to feel lost and unseen. Brian and Allison make Rattlesnake feel like an extension of home. In addition to their work at building a welcoming and inclusive environment for staff, students, and families alike, they are modernizing the education world with their innovative practices, encouraging staff to learn and trial new initiatives such as the Modern Classroom Project, I Think, Permission to Feel, and outdoor education. Brian and Allison listen, they acknowledge our humanness, and they make coming to work an absolute joy. Congratulations. Congratulations to all our Inspire Award recipients for your outstanding support of the students in the Halton District School Board. You have supported and promoted our students' achievement and well-being. Again, a special thank you to Susan Thrasher in the Director's Office, who every month works to ensure trustees have all they need to assess the nominees. For everyone watching this evening, please continue to nominate people or organizations who support our students and their achievements through exemplary caring, initiative, innovation, and creativity. The nomination form is available on the hdsb.ca website. Everyone in the Halton District School Board community can nominate or be nominated. Families, neighbors, organizations, staff, students, and volunteers. All nominations are gratefully received by the trustees. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. All right, we are now up to item 2.2, the student trustee report. Student Ruggiero and Wang, do you have a report for us this evening?
We do.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you've been having a good December. Time passes by so quickly, and today's student trustee report, I believe, is the final one of 2022. So as we wrap up this year, Trustee Ruggiero and I have a lot to highlight and share with you all. And this includes student senate updates and updates on what we're working on.
Yesterday, Trustee Wang and I hosted the last Student Senate meeting of 2022 with a theme of environmental leadership and event planning. Senators got to hear from some phenomenal guest speakers, some of which who are sitting in this room, Superintendent Proto and Superintendent Flahat, who both brought such passion and personal insight to their speeches, truly motivated our senators. From Superintendent Proto's message to senators to seek out students who typically aren't heard in their schools, to ensure that they're meeting the needs and reflecting the perspectives of everybody in their school, to Superintendent Flahat's theme of being a true leader isn't about always having a title, but it's always seeing and acting upon problems that often others overlook. We would like to thank them both for taking their time to inspire our students. In addition to our guest speakers, the agenda was packed with updates and action items for our senators. Notably, Trustee Wang and I presented 3 motions to the Student Senate. The Student Senate Vision and Goals motion, which finalized the overarching vision for the Student Senate and outlined the goals for each of our subcommittees. The Executive Council and Student Senate Subcommittee co-chair motions were both formalized and were all passed by our senators. Now, with these motions passed, students have been able to partake in the process of being a senator and representing their voice at the Senate level. Also, during the Senate meeting, student senators had the opportunity to network with senators from each of their respective municipalities through the regional breakout session. Our Student Senate regional directors have been working hard to bring together students from each of their cities in Halton to identify region-specific issues affecting their students and to develop a plan to address these concerns within their schools. In addition, Trustee Wang and I, alongside 10 student senators, are working with the HDSB mental health staff to develop a student survey which will ask students anonymously and voluntarily about their awareness and comfort about mental health information, resources, and support, and this was proposed at our Senate meeting yesterday. Finally, our next Senate meeting will be taking place on January 17th, 2023, and will be in person after 2 years at the Milton Education Center. We are super excited to hopefully welcome Chair Shuttleworth to talk about her role as a trustee as we approach student trustee elections. I would now like to pass it over to Trustee Wang to speak about Student Senate subcommittees.
So this year's Student Senate subcommittees have been finalized, and all of our 5 subcommittees have been filled with senators who are passionate about its purpose and are eager to get started on working on initiatives and projects for this school year. Almost every single one of our over 100 student senators joined a subcommittee, so big thank you to all of them for taking that step and that initiative. We also have a very exciting opportunity for students in grades 7 to 12 in the HDSB who might not be part of Student Senate. Our applications for students outside of Student Senate to join our subcommittees have opened. The application is open to any student in the HDSB in grades 7 to 12. This means you don't have to be part of Student Senate to join. We will be looking for 4 to 6 students from each region to join each of our 5 subcommittees, and we encourage students of all backgrounds and experiences to apply. We don't have a criteria, only that you're interested in the purpose of the subcommittee. All meetings for subcommittees are virtual unless, otherwise, but usually they're very much virtual. Students who are selected will be representing the students at their school and region within board-wide subcommittee meetings and initiatives. To all students, this is your chance to make some change, and the deadline will be January 13th, 2023 to get applications in. Student senators will be promoting this opportunity at their schools, so look out for announcements or posters to find out more. You can also find out more about the Senate subcommittees and the application form by visiting studentsenate.hdsb.ca or reaching out to Trustee Rogero and I. We can't wait to see students joining our subcommittee soon.
In addition, Trustee Wang and I have been working closely with our trustee mentor and the staff of the board office to relaunch the Inspire Awards to students across the board. Inspire Awards are for those who go above and beyond and support students within the HDSB community. Notably, everyone in the HDSB community can be nominated or nominate others. In particular, students can. So it's often the student who is the recipient of these exemplary actions from members of the HDSB students, members of the HDSB community. So in an effort to highlight the unique perspectives that students have, we're looking to raise awareness and student awareness about this amazing Inspire Award program. Notably, with help from Susan Thrasher from the director's office and Trustee Oliver, we've been able to send some Inspire Award posters to all of our student senators in their schools. In the coming weeks, we expect to see posters and presentations from our senators informing students about the Inspire Awards and how and who they can nominate. In addition, we are working with Trustee Gray to develop a student-friendly guide for Inspire Awards to eliminate any potential barriers for students. We look forward to working closely with the board and to recognize those who are making a difference with our students.
And we've been updating you all on the Mental Health Leadership Task Force in our recent reports, and this report is no different. We've been seeing lots of progress on the development of this task force, which started off as a motion passed at Student Senate back in October. Throughout the past month, we've been meeting with Mental Health Lead Michelle Bates, VP Louisa Batello, Trustee Oliver, Heidi Song, a grade 12 student at Iroquois Ridge High School, and Ashia Dewan, a grade 11 student at Craig Kielberger Secondary School. And we've all been working together to create the preliminary team for this task force. The preliminary team is not the actual task force itself. The purpose of this team is to have a smaller group of students that will be aiding Trustee Ruggiero and I in developing the framework for this task force before it's officially launched. Our goal is to ensure that the diverse student perspectives are included from the get-go before the task force has even begun. We're thrilled to share that we have finalized the application form for the preliminary team and a letter to principals and administrators encouraging them to share this application form and opportunity with their student body. All HCSB students in grades 7 to 12 are welcome to apply. You don't need to be part of Student Senate. We encourage students interested in mental health and well-being to apply. You don't need to have leadership experience or be academically exceptional. We're simply looking for an interest and passion for this topic. The number of students we select will be based on the interest we receive, and the application deadline is January 13th, 2023. Student senators once again will be ensuring that this opportunity reaches their school's principal and lead educator on the youth well-being teams. We encourage all schools to promote this opportunity, whether it's through school announcements, newsletters, social media, etc. We can't wait to meet with our preliminary team in January to start the development of the task force itself.
In addition, over the past couple of weeks, Trustee Wang and I have been working closely with the Student Equity Committee to outline the launch of this committee across our system. We are currently working on a letter to administrators about an application form for students. And most notably, following conversations with principals from our primary schools, we are incredibly proud to welcome junior reps from grades 4 to 6 from our K to 5 and K to 6 schools to serve alongside our intermediate members of this committee. I would like to thank Chair Shuttleworth and the Director's Office and Associate Director Salmini and all the voices in this room who've helped us make sure that we're considering our younger voices. And so this is an incredible step, and we're looking forward to making sure that we have that voice from our primary schools in Burlington, in Milton, and across our system. So the Google Form application is currently under review by the equity team, and we are hoping to have a launch date in February. So special thanks to everyone that's been a part of this process and to our past student trustees and the HGSB equity team who've been supporting this launch. And we can't wait to be providing an update next month on how it's going. Thank you.
And last but not least, December means that we're close to the election period for student trustees. Trustee Ruggiero and I are in the starting phase of planning for the 2023 student trustee election. And while nothing is finalized yet for this year, we encourage students interested in this opportunity to start thinking about it. HDSB students currently in grades 10 and 11 are eligible. And as always, the campaign period will take place during the month of February, with the official election happening towards the end of February. As someone who went through the elections last year, it's an amazing opportunity for you to step outside your comfort zone, share your passion for what you do, and connect with so many students who you might not have the opportunity to meet otherwise. The campaigning period itself was a great learning opportunity, and as I always tell the people around me, being elected to be a student trustee was probably the best thing to have happened to me this year. I've grown so much and have the opportunity to do things that I never imagined I'd be able to do, and so as we start to think about our elections for the next student trustees, I encourage any grades 10 and 11 students who have even the slightest interest in this role to consider running in February. More information will come in late January when we send an email out to our students as we do every year, so please look out for that. Trustee Ruggiero and I are always happy to talk to students and to talk about our experience, so feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Overall, we would like to thank you all for listening today. From Inspire Awards, the Mental Health and Student Equity Committee updates, there's a lot of amazing projects that are happening in our board, and we're hoping to have students of all ages get involved. Before I close off our report, I would like to thank Superintendent Petco, the Director's Office, and the team of trustees for putting together the Human Rights Symposium that's going to be taking place tomorrow. From speaking with our senators last night at the meeting, they're super excited to hear from the guest speakers, and they have really excited to be asking some some of those questions as well. So we're happy to take any questions that any of you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for our student trustees? Seeing none, I have one. So you spoke about your subcommittees trying to get students involved that aren't within the Senate. When you spoke later about your mental health and well-being, you spoke about all these different ways that you're trying to get those names out there. So the principal, all those sort of things. With the subcommittees, so you gave a website to go to with HDSB, but if you're not involved with things, I don't know that you would look there. So I'm just wondering, what types of communications are you trying to get out there to engage those less engaged students?
So this year we've purposely thank you so much for the question, by the way. We've purposely asked our senators to bring this opportunity back to their schools. So rather than just kind of learning about it through the Senate meetings, we gave them an action item we had a poster that we created with the help of Grace, who is on our exec team. And we encouraged them to put that up in their schools if they can, to have presentations in their schools if they're able to speak with the principals about putting out school announcements, putting it in their school newsletters if they can, putting it on their social media, and also just encouraging students at their schools to come to them if they have any questions, because they are the student senator at their school. And so with all of these, we hope that it can reach as many students as possible, because I know not every single student checks our website or checks the Instagram if they're not aware about what Student Senate is in the first place. And so this year we've kind of gave them a list of potential ideas for them to promote this. And so hopefully through that, we can get more student engagement.
Great, thank you so much. Trustee Gray also has a question.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I'm really remiss in a number of weeks, week after week, when we hear from the student trustees, I always say to myself, oh my gosh, what leadership, what inspiring young people that we have in this board leading other senators. And so thank you for all that you shared. I am super excited to have the first in-person meeting somewhere almost fully up north in Milton. It's an improvement. Milton is great. We'll take it. 17th of January. I'm going to be there because I'm just so thrilled that we can get our students coming together. I know that always in person, there's a great amount of synergy that just can't be captured in the Brady Bunch screen. So, we'll look forward to the 17th of January. And thank you again, folks, for all the enthusiasm and wonderful leadership that you provide to our senators. Thank you.
All right. See no further questions. Thank you again so much for your wonderful report. I look forward to the Senate meeting in January, and I'm happy to say that Trustee Gray will be joining me. So thank you very much. Okay, we have no delegations this evening or further presentations, which brings us up to our consent agenda, item 3. So for approval, we have item 3.1.1, Halton District School Board minutes for November 16th, 2022. Item 3.1.2, Halton District School Board minutes special board meeting for November 23rd, 2022. 3.1.3, Halton District School Board minutes for the special board meeting of November 30th, 2022, as well as the receipt of information items, including our order paper, which is item 3.2.1, and item 3.2.2, our board report schedule, report number 22156. So I'll put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the consent agenda and receive the information items for December 7th, 2022. Trustee Daniele, would you like to move the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I would.
And Trustee Diodati, would you like to second that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any items that need to be pulled for discussion? Trustee Gray.
Yes, I'd like to have both items under 3.2 pulled for question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that's the order paper and the board report schedule. All right, thank you. Seeing no further requests, I'll pass it over to you, Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. I just wanted clarification under 3.2.1, the order paper. In this document, that some of the columns are highlighted on the left side. Is that highlight telling us that those are soon to be removed? I'm not sure that I've seen just a column, the left-hand column being highlighted like that. before.
General Manager Carrillo would like to give you some insight.
Through the chair, the left side column was partially highlighted when only parts of the motion have been completed. In some cases, the formatting in Google Docs just won't allow the whole cell to be highlighted.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And as mentioned earlier tonight, we do have a process to have a full review of this document. Is that coming up in the near future?
Again, I'll pass it over to you, Manager Carrillo.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Gray, yes, we'll plan to do a review of the full order paper and outstanding action items on the order paper in January.
Thank you very much. Can I move on to the next one, 3.2.2? Okay, under 3.2.2, it's just a question. There's this is the list of the different items that we have coming forward to us in the board meetings ahead. And last year I had the chance to participate in the commencement ceremonies at Gary Allen High School, and I spoke with then almost retired principal Andrea Taylor. And we talked about perhaps the need for trustees to be more aware of the Gary Allen programming, and maybe we should be seeing a report coming before the board. And so I just wanted to ask the question tonight: how do we get a report to be made yearly and brought before the Board of Trustees?
Thank you, Trustee Gray. This is actually something that I spoke to Director Ennis when we went to Gary Allen. Before Principal Taylor left, she came in and spoke to, I think it was myself, Superintendent Newton, and Director Ennis, and we talked about having that annual report come through. Am I right if I say Hawa? Hawa. I'm right. I think I'm right. I've got a good memory somewhere. And I think that was something that we were looking at doing. I don't know where we are in that report coming, but I do know that was something we spoke of just before Principal Taylor retired. Can I pass it over to Associate Director Salmini? And yes. Somebody else has their hand up too.
Oh, so you might, I believe that Superintendent Newton has raised her hand and is on the line. You might want to speak to her. She might have more information than me.
Sure. Superintendent Newton, are you there?
Thank you, through the director to the director, chair. We are really excited. In January, we are scheduled to bring a report to you regarding our newcomer adult language program that has grown by over 300% since it launched 18 months ago, despite COVID. And we will also be bringing a report to the board later in February for Gary Allen and their alternative learning sites in terms of the success that we've had there as well.
Just checking, is that currently situated on this document that we're looking at right now?
Through the chair to Trustee Gray, no, it's not listed there right now. We are debating about whether to make it a committee of the whole report to spend longer going over the programs, or whether it would be more appropriate at a board table.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Further to Trustee Gray's question, I noted when I just opened the document, in the past we have struck through the items once the report has come to board so that we know that it's complete. I was wondering if we could reinstate that process so that we know as trustees that things happened on the date they were supposed to happen. Thanks.
We sure can. Thank you very much. Trustee Gray, does that sort of complete your? Perfect. So are there any other items up for discussion? All right, seeing none, are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as presented? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you very much. We are now up to item 4.0, ratification or action items for this evening. Item number 4.1, ratification of business transacted in private session. Vice Chair Rocha, do we have any business from private session that requires approval this evening?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing none there, we are now up to item 4.2, action items for December the 7th, 2022. The first item up is the boundary review report number 22148, Superintendent Gaudette and General Manager Thibault. The floor is yours, sir.
Through you, Madam Chair, to trustees, since the report was presented at the November 11th Board of Trustee meeting, we haven't made any changes to it. So we're still recommending the 3 boundary reviews to be undertaken as part of this year. So just to reiterate them, it'll be the Aldershot boundary review, which will include Mapleview and Glenview Elementary School. That's to rebalance some of the enrollment pressures at Glenview. And then the second will be the one in Halton Hills affecting Silver Creek as well as Ethel Gardner. And again, similarly, this one's to redistribute growth that's currently being entirely held at Ethel Gardner and trying to redistribute that to Silver Creek, again, because of capacity issues. And then last but certainly not least will be one that will commence later in the year, which is the Oakville 3 and 5 boundary review. That will involve a boundary review that wants to establish both of those school boundaries as well as additional holding areas, modifying holding areas, and identifying holding schools. So that one will be pretty extensive, and we're hoping to start that one in the spring, more than likely, once the other 2 boundary reviews are completed. Happy to take any questions, and yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put the motion on the floor and then I'll open it for questions. So be it resolved that the Halton District School Board directs staff to complete a boundary review for ERA 100, which is Aldershot, with the objective of addressing accommodation pressures. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board directs staff to complete a boundary review for ERA 124, Georgetown South, with the objective of addressing accommodation pressures. And be it resolved that the Halton District School Board directs staff to complete a boundary review for ERA 114, Palermo and West Oak Trails, and ERA 115, Glen Abbey, ERA 116, Munns Creek, ERA 117, Morrison Valley, and ERA 118, North Oakville, with the objective of establishing new boundaries for the Oakville No. 3 primary school and the Oakville No. 5 primary school, address accommodation pressures throughout the study area, and update holding school boundaries. Trustee Oliver, will you like to make a motion to pass that?
I move the motion.
Thank you. And Trustee Diodati, would you like to second that?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there any debate or questions? Trustee Rocha.
Thank you. Through the chair, to get a good sense of how we come up with these boundary review processes, right now we're doing 3 sections throughout different regions of Halton. Can you maybe share with the public what the process is to determine what areas need to be looked at versus taking a more holistic approach across Halton when possibly looking at boundary reviews?
So through you, Madam Chair, to Vice Chair Rocha. So essentially, how did we select the schools that we've identified tonight? Okay, perfect. So under that understanding, so what we did and we want to speak directly to the Oakville 3 and 5 one, or all of them? All of them. Okay. So first and foremost, what we do is, as part of the annual process, we complete the LTAP. The LTAP, we look at long-term enrollment projections for each one of our schools. And as part of that process, too, we're looking at where some of the concerns might be in terms of providing student accommodation. Where we see that either We're having schools that are nearing or exceeding school capacity, which will, generate issues because we can't accommodate the students on site, or where we're seeing that there's underutilization. When we have new schools funded and that are anticipated to be open, this is usually some of the key indicators and triggers that we're looking at as to, okay, well, this requires us to undertake a specific process, and what that process is can be a number of things. Again, it can be asking for new funding for new schools, additions. It can be looking at boundary reviews where we have some critical issues that are coming up and we need to redirect students immediately. We have redirections that senior team implements. Tonight, we're looking more at the boundary review tools, which this one is more something that we're looking to establish long-term boundaries as part of these communities, as well as create boundaries for some of the new schools we're looking to open. And when we're determining what schools to be involved in that process, we do look at it holistically and try to see all of what we're trying to achieve here. So specifically, at a smaller scale, which, Aldershot and South Georgetown would be, well, that's really a very, a narrow focus. And now we have one school that's seeing a lot of enrollment pressures. They're about to exceed their maximum portable capacity. We won't be able to accommodate them. In that process, we're looking at addressing that issue and then involving schools that can contribute to assisting in addressing that issue, as well as maybe others that we've identified. Things such as the North Oakville number 3 and 5, that's a number of different issues. So here we have issues where we have schools that are about to surpass their maximum capacity because they're holding all the new growth that's coming in as a result of development. We currently have existing holding schools that have been incorporated as part of boundaries in wait for Oakville 3 and Oakville 5 to be established. And now we're also looking at the fact that although Oakville 3 and 5 aren't necessarily going to be ready in time, and we are still facing accommodation pressures, we're looking at, are there other opportunities to explore holding situations where we can hold these schools once these boundaries are established and start generating or creating that school community, so when the school is open, we can have an easier transition into it and try to lessen the situations where we have students attending in multiple different areas just because we're having all these pressures. And that's the case here where we're doing that, as well as maybe addressing some long-standing boundaries that we weren't able to, I wouldn't say fix, but address because another school was holding those students and we didn't have the opportunity to unify some of these communities that, if I'm to throw an example in here, Post Corners and River Oaks, there's a pocket currently attending Post Corners that's within walking distance and really is part of the River Oaks community, but we've never been able to redirect them there because River Oaks has been a holding school for the North. Now that we're opening new schools and addressing this, now that presents an opportunity to fix those things. So there's varying scales to it, and that's the thought process we go through as we're recommending a process to be initiated. Afterwards, obviously, these aren't things that we're implementing right away as part of these boundary reviews. This is just presenting it as this is why we're doing it. Now we're going through the process in terms of involving first the steering committee to look at what pathway we're looking to establish in terms of defining what the boundaries are going to be to bring back to trustees for approval, whether it's pathway 1 that involves community consultation or 2, which is informing the community, which depends on the scale and the level of impact. And then if we are to undertake a process with the community, then that's a whole other process where now we're looking at various options with the intent of using our criteria in the administrative policy to best fit. It's not perfect, it never will be, but at least, the sum of its part is the best option to address all those criteria and establish these new boundaries with the assistance of the parent community. So that in a rather large, but nutshell, is kind of the process that, and the thought process behind it.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for General Manager Thibault? You'll keep the next one short? Okay, seeing none. If you can take a look at your questrons and please cast your vote. Thank you. Just give a minute, try and see if we can get it out. Thank you very much, and that passes unanimously. Thank you, General Manager Thibault, for your fulsome explanation. Okay, that brings us up to item 4.2.2, Trustee Professional Development for January and February 2023, report number 22152, and I am going to have to pass the gavel for this one.
All right, so next up on the agenda is a report. I'm going to read the motion first. Be it resolved that trustees participate in communications professional development as outlined in report 22152. This work will be facilitated by Navigator Limited by the end of February 2023 at a cost not to exceed $15,000 plus HSD and will be funded by the trustees' prior term reserve account. Trustee Oliver, would you like to move this motion?
I move the motion.
And Trustee Daniele, would you like to second?
Thank you. Yes, I will.
All right, I will
pass it over to me.
I'll pass it on to Chair Shuttleworth.
All right, so I just wanted to give a little bit of background information to this. So recently, with the new faces at the board, we thought it might be a great opportunity to receive some communication training from Navigator. So the staff are partaking in some communication training from Navigator, and then they will follow on to give us similar training to give us some idea as to how we can communicate and engage with a variety of stakeholders that we may come into contact during our trustee lives. Trustees will engage with the stakeholders to understand and represent the diverse needs and interests in the boardroom and communicate back to the stakeholders within the parameters of the statutory role of trustees. So during this training, we are hoping to learn the communication theories and best practices for engaging in different audiences, the process to develop and deliver key messages, and we will also practice scenarios communicating with stakeholders. So through this activity, we're hoping to gain some confidence and understanding how best to approach some of those situations that we might come into contact in our day-to-day lives. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any out there.
Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Through you to Superintendent Nagoy, I was just wondering how much we currently have in the trustees' prior term reserve account. I know you probably don't have it updated since the end of term, but so it would be higher than what we had at the end of the fiscal. But if you could just update us with the end of the fiscal, thanks.
Thank you. And for the chair to Trustee Collard, as of August 31st, 2022, and as per financial statements, there's 62,731 remaining, with anything that is left over at the end, well, I shouldn't say the end of November, mid-November in this case, would be added to it. However, we're still reconciling that. So it might be higher. It usually is a little higher than that. We just don't know exactly how much.
Thank you. And I fully support this motion.
And quickly, I forgot to mention that this was worked on in collaboration with Superintendent Podjaberic, and I want to thank him for his support and guidance in moving forward with this.
Trustee Gray.
Yes, thank you very much. I would urge that we establish dates early enough, and that the dates are dates that will work for everyone in our new board, as I sense that maybe some dates at the end or some time frames at the end of the day might work better for some of our trustees at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I'm sure Superintendent Podjaberic, are you there? I do have a question. So, Superintendent Podjaberic, I'm just wondering what our flexibility is in looking at the times for us to partake in this training.
Through the chair, I will speak with Superintendent Pajabarik about some flexibility and options.
I have the gavel.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Okay. Now the motion has been read. There are, Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. Just a note, if we can, when we're looking at the timing, to find a time, I assume that our student trustees would be included in that training as well.
I will confirm and get back to you.
All right. Seeing no further speakers, we will cast.
There's somebody there. Oh, there's Scott.
Oh, okay. Superintendent Pajabarik, go ahead.
My apologies. I was making some phone calls, and I have several texts from my colleagues saying, "Can you answer a question?" So I missed the dialogue, but I am here. If the question.
Hi there. So Superintendent Pajabarik, we were just asking, so when we're looking at scheduling the navigator training for the trustees, there's two parts to this. First of all, what sort of flexibility do we have as far as time is concerned? Because we do have some trustees who don't have as flexible a timetable as others. Would we be able to have that training in the evening?
Question one. I think so. I haven't heard. I think they kind of mapped it out for us as a daytime piece, but I can certainly look into whether they would do it in the evening.
And the second question was, will student trustees be involved in this training as well?
In the sense that they would engage in parent response, no. At this point, we had felt they wouldn't be engaging with press, parent stakeholders in that truest sense, but so I'm not sure it would really suit their needs in terms of what they're expected to do. So at this point, we had not included it. As amazing as they are.
Question, my follow-up to the actual voice of the student trustee.
I think definitely over the recent months, both Trustee Wang and I have on multiple occasions been contacted by media, whether that be local or U.S. media, about the situations at our school. And I do believe in some sort of sense it would be valuable, but there have been occasions where we've been personally contacted by media to receive requests for statements, and it's sometimes challenging when we kind of don't know where to approach that situation. So I think this training would be beneficial for Trustee Wang and I. Thank you.
If I could respond, we don't. The chairperson is the spokesman for the board, speaking, in terms of to the public or public media issues. And we would not ask or want our student trustees speaking to the media on any issue unless it was aligned to being a student senator or something of that mind. But any sort of keep in mind, Navigator is a crisis management firm, and this is a crisis management team, not a generalized issue. So, including you in the training, Trustee Ruggiero, would only might imply that we want or expect you to answer on really hot, critical issues in the board, and we would not ask you to do that.
If I may, through the chair, perhaps Superintendent Pajabarik and others, we can look at a future opportunity for student trustees to get some training around how to respond to media in terms of their role in the board.
All right. Next speaker, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. It's been the practice of the Professional Development Standing Committee to include student trustees on every professional development opportunity, and I would not want to see this opportunity missed. Student trustees do have a responsibility to communicate with the student population. That's over 60,000 students. And I think that there's a role for them in learning about crisis communications, given the times in which we live. I would like to extend the invitation to include student trustees as we do normally.
Thank you for that, Trustee Collard. Superintendent Podgebark and I and the team will reflect on that and will confirm.
I'm just sharing the rationale for why they were initially excluded. We can always take it back.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers on the list, we will now go to voting. Please cast your vote.
This is in favor.
Thank you, Trustee Zhang. We're having a technical difficulty. Please hold off. Okay, the voting has been reestablished. If you can go ahead and cast your vote. Trustee Oliver? Okay, and that carries unanimously. Thank you. And I'll pass the gavel back.
Thank you so much. That brings us now up to item 4.2.3, the Striking Committee report, report number 22155, which was done on myself and Trustee Rocha on behalf of the Striking Committee. Do you want to speak to it first, Trustee Rocha, or would you like me to read the motion first?
I can speak to it first.
Go right ahead, please.
Okay. So last week, the trustees met in a professional development session to learn more about committees and to identify trustees' interests in the several committees. As you know, the Board of Trustees does need to establish different types of committees. Those vary anywhere from statutory committees to non-stat standing committees, OPSPA appointments that are committees that are led by staff, appointments to trustee-led committees. And in the attached report, all committees are listed and people's interests have been identified, as well as in some cases who will be the chair and who will serve as alternate. And it was a fulsome discussion that we had, and I think everyone ended up on the committees that they wanted to. So before you is the Striking Committee report for 2023.
Thank you, Trustee Collard. I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Sorry, Vice Chair Rocha. It's a night of oopsies tonight. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the trustee committee appointments as outlined in report number 22155, Appendix A. Trustee Zhang, would you like to move this motion?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Trustee Gray, would you like to second that?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion or debate?
Point of order.
Trustee Amos.
Thank you. Currently, we have, I believe, 3 non-statutory committees listed in Appendix A, and those committees have expired. I believe they possibly may need to be renewed.
So would you like to amend?
Yes, I would like to amend. I would actually like to ask that those 3 committees be pulled from this report right now, and to amend Appendix A to omit those 3 non-statutory committees until at such time we have an opportunity to discuss them.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion related to a point of order that we will move first. So if we look at it like this, Trustee Amos, be it resolved that the Halton District School Board amend Appendix A of Report 22155 to omit non-statutory standing committees. Would you be happy with that?
Yes.
So would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I would.
And Trustee Collard, would you like to second that?
No, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Rocha, would you like to second that? Vice Chair Rocha?
Sure, I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any debate on the... Can I hear it again? Yep. Be it resolved that the Halton... I'll see if I can put it up as well. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board amend Appendix A of Report 22155 to omit non-statutory standing committees. So what that means is those committees that are non-statutory will be looked at during our next committee of the whole meeting to have a more fulsome discussion around them.
That's the wrong motion.
Right. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Wasn't anticipating having to open the committees and appointments governance procedure, but in the governance procedure, it does say that that they may be renewed by the board for another year or another fixed period, taking into account any recommendations of the committees. And all 3 of the standing committees prepared annual reports, which were presented to the board prior to the end of term. And all 3 of the committees had recommendations and an action plan for the following year of what work needed to be done. Last week, when we had our professional development, each of the standing committees was discussed, and there was great interest amongst trustees present to participate in these committees. So I see no reason or need for any further discussion. There are 15 spaces open and 15 spaces filled on the striking committee's report. So I will not be in favor of this amendment.
So, Trustee Amos, did you want to respond? Okay, go ahead, Trustee Amos.
Thank you. So when we did discuss the committees, it was noted that while there were end-of-term reports, they did include a recommendation to renew, the board still had to do that. So we haven't done that by moving or approval by the board yet. And also, there was discussion at our meeting last week at our professional development regarding one of the committees about potentially changing the name and its mandate. And so that is why I feel it's better to pull this right now so that we can have that discussion at committee of the whole and then move forward from there.
May I follow up? Okay, so in approving the striking committee's report, we in effect would be reinstating those 3 standing committees. And the reports for their end of term are included with the recommendations in them in this report. They're all part of the striking committee's report. So when we approve the striking committee's report, we in effect reinstate the standing committees. There is no need for further discussion regarding the standing committees. They were discussed last week during our professional development. And while there may be some tweaks required, they can be made after the committees have been struck. The name of a committee and perhaps some parts of the mandate of a committee are always open for discussion under their terms of reference. And that is open to any trustee to bring forward to discuss in that manner. There is work pending to be done in a very quick manner, especially by the governance committee. We have only until May to renew our trustee code of conduct. We have a safety and well-being policy that's under review that needs to be completed as quickly as possible, that falls under the Superintendent of Human Resources. There is a book full of work to be done, and delaying by another couple of weeks puts us a couple of weeks further behind. We haven't been able to do any work for the past month. So I am against this motion.
So if I can just clarify my understanding of the motion from the discussion that we had last week. I seem to recall from the striking committee that we had last week, because it was professional development, we were unable to make any decisive decisions. So there was just an informal conversation that happened last week, which made certain pieces difficult, some pieces easy. But I do recall around some of those standing committees, yes, standing committees, that there was some concern over the scope and name of certain committees, and that when we were at that meeting last week, there was discussion of a renaming process and maybe, as you said, rejigging the mandate of each committee. So I understand where Trustee Amos is coming from, because I recognize that, and I do know that there was quite a few people that were involved in that discussion last night. And for me, I'm just confused as to if we go forward with that, we're going forward with the committees named as they are. If we leave it until our first committee of the whole meeting, we have a chance to discuss. We're not going to be meeting over Christmas with any of these committees anyway. So taking that time to have that fulsome discussion at our next committee of the whole meeting and making an informed decision at the next board meeting might be prudent. I don't know, but I'll pass it back over to you, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. The next committee of the whole meeting won't be until the third Wednesday of January. That means that no work gets done until at least the end of January. That is another 6 weeks from now that no work gets done. And yes, if we struck those committees tonight, as chair of one of those committees, I would be tomorrow morning sending out a schedule of meeting dates, because we have to meet publicly, and I would be prearranging those dates with the members of the committee that I am supposed to be chairing if the striking committee's report is approved. There is work to be done, and I don't want to be put back 3 months when I could only be put back by 6 weeks. There's no point. If we want to change the name of a standing committee, it's easily done by board motion. If we want to change the terms of reference of a standing committee, it's easily done by board motion. We don't have to stop the process of building these standing committees just because we don't like the name or we want to tweak the mandate. The mandate is something that is always open to tweaking.
So I recognize that. Again, so I'm just looking calendar-wise. So really the next couple of weeks are the final weeks before the Christmas holidays. I don't know how much time we'll have, and then we're on holidays for 2 weeks. So in looking at that month, I think we need to be cautious when we're talking about that length of time, because holiday, I don't know how many people will be wanting to meet over that time. So just conscious of that piece. Trustee Amos.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that while the recommendations that came forward about those committees, they were recommendations, but they were not resolutions and they were not voted on. So that means even though we're trying to appoint people to those committees, we still haven't voted on keeping them. I just wanted to point that out as a part of the process.
Would you like to, I'll just keep going. Trustee Rocha. Vice Chair Rocha, sorry.
I won't be able to support the motion to remove the 3 standing committees. And Trustee Collard pretty much covered everything as far as when the last term ended, recommendations were made from all 3 committees to proceed. I think if you look at each committee could probably be tweaked. And I think that would be the mandate of the 3 new committees going forward. And being a previous member of the governance committee, Trustee Collard, is correct in saying that there are some policies that require immediate attention, and no one's been able to work on them since November 15th, and to wait until the third week of January to even start the conversation of establishing a committee, knowing that there is a May 15th deadline for one of the policies, it wouldn't be prudent. So I will not support the motion to amend the report. The motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rocha. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much to the chair. I'm listening very closely to this debate, and I hear two terms being used. One was that the three standing committees had recommendations to carry forward into the next term. But I also heard the word resolution, i.e. formalized voting process where the trustees would vote that these committees continue. And so in order to sort of have a medium point here, would there be a possibility that we could bring a motion forward to the floor, a walk-on tonight, to resolve this issue by putting a resolution forward or a motion to have these three committees continue? Then if we voted in favor of that, then there would be no need to then remove them from the motion that sits before us. I'm just looking for, because I really love that we are trying to follow process, Trustee Amos. I think that's critical. We need to have that opportunity to decide whether, in fact, we do, as a group, believe that these committees should continue through a resolution, through a formalized process. But I'm not sure, and I look to the chair for guidance on whether this is possible under Robert's rules.
So having them continue would be the original motion. So the original motion was to have all of the striking committees be approved, I'll find it in a second, as standing. However, what Trustee Amos has brought up was that at the last professional development meeting that we had, there was some concerns raised. Thank you. That some of the standing committees might need to have some adjustments made to the name and the purview or mandate of the committees. So that's a concern that was raised, and because it wasn't a deciding meeting last week, we had to wait till now. So because now we are looking at fulfilling the striking committee obligations that we've created, we can go forward with them all, as was the original motion, or we can go forward with the ones that have been approved without concern, and then with the three standing committees that Trustee Amos has highlighted, save those to have a fuller discussion so everybody can understand the implications of the current name, the current mandate, what might want to be changed, what might not want to be changed. At our first committee of the whole meeting, as Trustee Collard and Vice Chair Rocha mentioned, the difficulty with that is because next week's committee of the whole meeting has been changed to a board meeting. We do not have committee of the whole till the third week of January. So it's a complexity because of the timetable of our meetings, because committee of the whole isn't for a longer period of time. If that helps or muddies the water.
Thank you. Could I follow up?
Sure.
To continue on my mantra from the last term and to the new trustees around the table, my mantra is to go slow, to go fast. And so with that in mind, I would support Trustee Amos's thoughts here tonight, in that we should have that then discussion, and that we can then, and especially given that we have 4 new trustees, they need to be maybe brought into aware of some of the concerns or some of the work of these standing committees. And I think that it wouldn't hurt our group to take that time to do that. However, I am listening to Trustee Collard's concern about how that will put us under great time pressures. But I really feel that, a process is a process, and I think we should follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gray. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. I think I want to straighten out some of the process, okay? There was no resolution before the board to renew the standing committees until now. Right now, we have a motion before the board to renew the standing committees. It is embedded in the striking committee's report. The striking committee's report that we are approving includes the recommendations from each of those 3 standing committees from their end of term reports. Each of those 3 standing committees recommended renewal. And so, as they are included in this report, and those end of term reports are included in this report, when we approve the report, we approve everything in the report, which would be also approving the reinstatement of those standing committees. Furthermore, we must, by provincial edict, have our trustee code of conduct reviewed and approved by May 15th. If you think it's possible to turn that around between the end of January and the 15th of May, thinking back about how long it has taken for us to do much smaller amounts of work, you'll remember that we only have 2 trustee board meetings per month. We have other people's work schedules to consider. There are 5 people on the governance standing committee, if we approve this tonight, 5 people's schedules that need to be aligned to be able to do this work. It gives us less than 4 months to go from the point of having a standing committee to approving what has been mandated by the province must be approved by the 15th of May. That is the primary reason why I cannot support this amendment. And the resolution to reinstate these standing committees is contained within the report.
Thank you, Trustee Collard. And I'm sorry, it was a misorder. Next up is Trustee Daniele. Even though it says.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be honest with you. I can go either way on this. We could defer to next week to give us a chance to look at it. We could put it till January. I think some of the work might get started behind school. I don't know. I will say that it is recommending that I be the chair of the Professional Development Committee. And in the plan for the Professional Development Committee was a planned boardroom decorum and Robert's Rules of Order training, a refresher for veteran trustees, and a primer for new trustees. And according to the report, that was to arrive at the end of January 2023. Whether we approve this tonight or not, I don't think we would get to that by the end of January 2023, because I do believe the motion we passed earlier regarding communications training would be much more important. There is work to be due, but I'm willing to go with the amendment. I'm understanding what is being said, but with the understanding that we all know that February, March, April will be very, very busy for us. We can do it if we choose to. It's a matter of whether or not we choose to. I don't know if I made that any clearer or not.
Thank you, Trustee Daniele. Could we find a happy medium? So somewhat like Trustee Gray was speaking to, could we, instead of defer to the next committee of the whole, defer to next week, to our next board meeting? I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm taking a page out of your book. Well, she was saying finding a happy medium, but I'm referring to both Trustee Gray and Trustee Daniele. So Trustee Daniele suggested maybe a deferral till next week, maybe making that a little bit easier rather than the next committee of the whole meeting, and that allows some time for a discussion. And that's kind of what I see maybe as a halfway point, but we'll see. Vice Chair Rocha, you're next on the list.
I wanted to address Trustee Gray's concerns about that resolution of creating those 3 standing committees. Because all 3 former committees all made recommendations to, what's the word I'm looking for, to continue, That's why the three committees were discussed last week. Because if the professional development team had said, nope, no need to continue, we wouldn't have had that discussion last week. If board self-assessment said, nope, no need to continue, we've done our work, we wouldn't have asked for people on that committee last week. And same for governance. So the reason why they're on this report was because of those recommendations. And like Trustee Collard explained, that's why they're being presented tonight as part of the striking committee report to say, yes, we want to reestablish them. And here are the people who've put their name forward for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rocha. Vice Chair Rocha, sorry. Trustee Amos.
Thank you. I feel we're going around in circles a bit. And part of it goes back to our discussion last week that there were some concerns around the name and the scope of one of the committees. And if that can be brought to resolution before we vote on having that committee, I'm fine with it. I have a problem with the scope of the committee as it exists and the way it ran last time. There was some concerns around the whole board at times about certain things. And so that's why this is why I've asked to sort of slow it down. And also because as part of protocol, we do need to approve the standing committees that were recommended to move forward.
Vice Chair Rocha.
Got it right.
Got it right.
All right. So to establish a committee, we would need to establish a committee to review the committee's policy and governance procedure. So it won't be a quick discussion. So you would still need to establish a committee to go over that policy and governance procedure. I'm incorporating the committee's policy and governance procedure. It's probably just the GP that needs to be reviewed, but you still need to establish a working group to review it, make the necessary changes that would meet your requirements. And that could take months to do because updating any policy, any governance procedure, it's a very lengthy process. So my suggestion would be to go ahead with the governance committee as suggested, and the people on there or whoever wants to make the changes can bring those suggestions forward, and that group can work to make those changes at the same time that they begin to work on other policies. So there's no quick way around this. You would need to establish a group to review the GP.
So just to kind of bring this maybe to an end, currently the motion that's on the floor says, be it resolved that the Halton District School Board amend Appendix A of Report 22155 to omit non-statutory standing committees. Currently, there is no date attached. What? Oh, sorry. Currently, there is no date attached to that motion. So we could look at that as being deferred to next week or deferred to the first committee of the whole meeting, which can be decided after voted upon. I'm just trying to give a little bit of a summary, and I'm going to go over to Trustee Collard. I almost called you Vice Chair.
It's been a long time since I had that hat. Yeah. Well, for one thing, the motion is to omit, not to defer. By omitting, it means that it's not coming back. And secondly, I wanted to tag on to what Vice Chair Rocha was saying about you would have to create a committee to then look at the committee's governance procedure in order to make changes to the governance procedure. And you would have no standing committee to lead the work because you've decided not to reinstate it. So the discussion about the content of of the governance policy itself needs to happen. And I will commit to making it a priority. If this goes through, I will commit to making this a priority immediately following the trustee code of conduct, which is a very big priority and must be done and sent to the ministry by May 15th. There is no way that we will get that work done if we don't start now. It won't happen if we start at the end of January. I've gone through this cycle so many times. You know how many years I've been on policy. I know how long these things take, Kelly. Yeah, so let's go forward, create the committees, do the work, and as soon as the code of conduct is done, I will commit to you that I will open up a review of the governance procedure so that we can look at the standing committee structures. Because what you're asking for right now puts a dead stop to any work on policies and governance procedures and bylaw. And that is a dead stop. There would be no committee in place to do any work on those things. We would have no mandate. No mandate.
So thank you, Trustee Collard. So I'm going to suggest, and I know I'm going to go back, we still have Trustee Amos and Trustee Daniele to speak, but I am going to suggest with this motion that is currently on the floor to amend it, to say, be it resolved, the Halton District School Board amend Appendix A to Report 22155 to omit non-statutory standing committees and defer this discussion till December the 14th. As a board, we create our own committees. So we wouldn't, if we're as a board making decisions, we could have that discussion at the board table that week. That's maybe a solution, but I will pass it over to the other two people on the speakers list to see where we go. Trustee Amos.
All I wanted to say was I'm not asking for a change in policy or I'm asking for a change in the mandate of a committee. You're becoming a lot more complicated than what I believe is the intent. So anyways, I don't want to get into a debate. I'm going to support this motion because I believe that we can have a week to think about it and maybe have an opportunity to find a solution that will fit all.
Thank you. Trustee Daniele.
Through you, Madam Chair, to, I'm sorry, Ms. Carrillo, I'm forgetting your exact title and I apologize for that. Manager Carrillo, because I know you have a lot of expertise in this. My question is, when these reports came, they came as part of the consent agenda. Each report had within it a recommendation to continue. When we approved the consent agenda items, did we de facto approve the recommendations that were included within those reports?
Through the chair to Trustee Daniele, the recommendations were included in the body of the report, but they were not included as motions, and they were on the agenda for information under the consent agenda. So they were received for information, but not for action or approval.
Thank you for that clarification. I will say that if we do move to defer this, I would only want to see it deferred 1 week because I absolutely understand what Trustee Collard is saying. And I would like to next week come forward with a better understanding of what we're deferring for. Because I know that there are concerns around one of the committees. I don't really understand that. There's a lot of words that have been thrown around tonight. I would want a concrete understanding of exactly what the concern is and what we're talking about. Because I do feel there's been a lot of word soup tonight and there's too much for me to try and stay on top of it. So that would be the only way that I would be able to support a deferment, is that it would be for 1 week and that we would come back with actually something concrete.
Thank you, Trustee Daniele. Trustee Collard.
And I would say as well that without a concrete idea of what changes are being asked for, we will come back next week, still not knowing what concrete changes are being asked for, and we will have this discussion all over again because we don't know what changes are being asked for because we haven't met in a committee to discuss the committee's governance procedure, which is where the terms and conditions of the standing committees resides. That's where the conversation needs to happen. If you would like a review of the governance procedure for committees and appointments, I have made the commitment to you that that will be a priority right after Code of Conduct. If that is your wish, please make a motion and it will happen. Or just trust that it will happen. One way or the other, it will happen.
Thank you. So I'm going to put the motion on the floor that needs to be voted on first. So
No.
it's not updated.
No, it is.
Okay, so I found it. So the motion that is on the floor is to be it resolved that we amend Appendix A of the Striking Committee Report number 22155 to omit non-statutory standing committees and defer consideration to December 14th. So that was a friendly amendment to the motion. The motion is now on the floor, so if you can please cast your votes. I'm sorry, can you cast your votes one more time? Is this it? Yes, this is it. I don't know what happened. I know. Okay, it says 12. Shinyi,
Oh, in favor.
thank you. So, and that passes, but not unanimously. So I've just got to figure out how to read the votes. So I will read the votes. As I said, it passes, but not unanimously. So in favor are Trustee Amos, Trustee Daniele, Trustee Diodati, Trustee Gray, Trustee Shuttleworth, and Trustee Zhang. Opposed? Trustee Ahmed, Trustee Collard, Trustee Baxter, Trustee Rocha, and Trustee Oliver. Thank you very much. Oh, and the two student trustees are in favor. I'm sorry, I didn't see down at the bottom. Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang in favor. Thank you very much. So we now go back to the original motion. Right. Well, so be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the trustee committee appointments as outlined in Report 22155 Appendix A as amended. Who haven't I done? Trustee Baxter, would you like to move that motion?
I would, thank you.
And Trustee Gray, would you like to second it?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
All right. think so. Is there any debate? Trustee Collard, are you there? Is that from old? Oh, it's old. All right, so it's not that one. Next topic. That topic. All right, please cast your votes. Thank you very much. Trustee Zhang?
In favor.
Thank you very much, and that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, after that, we're going to take a little break. So I'm going to call a recess for, let's say, till 9 o'clock. So 15 minutes, please. We'll see you in 15.
No way.
Is it 9 o'clock or is it?
That's too long.
It's a long break? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? 5 minutes is good. 5 minutes is good, so we'll come back at 10 to 9. No. Nice try. Okay. We are now up to item 5.0, communication to the board. First of all, for action for December 14th, 2022. 5.2.1, this is for information. Oh, sorry, there's nothing for action for December 14th, 2022, but there is on. Oh, there is now, you're correct. So, but for information for December 7th, 2022, item 5.2.1, the operational plan of 2021-2022, end of year update, report number 22154, Associate Director Salmini. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. So through the chair to all of the trustees, before you have the end of year report for last school year for 2021-22 of our operational plan, including successes, accomplishments towards our multi-year plan. You'll see that there is lots in that appendix. Many great things happened last school year. And I'd like to thank all of the superintendents around the table and their departments for making sure that we're getting the work done that we've set out to do in our operational plan, and also our school-based staff, because we know that that's where many of these things happen. So we're pleased to take any questions, and I will ask superintendents to chime in to help answer for their areas.
Thank you very much. Let's see, does anybody have any questions for Associate Director Salmini? Seeing none, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you all for supporting the work.
All right, we're now up to item 5.2.2, Budget Development Update, 2023-2024, report number 22153, Superintendent Nagoy. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. And for the chair, to all trustees, this is the official kickoff of the 2023-2024 budget development process, which takes quite a number of months. It starts usually in the fall with the education funding guide. That is a consultation guide from the ministry, and it ends in June with the approval of the board of the budget. So I just wanted to quickly highlight in the report, we've mentioned a little bit of the landscape that we are navigating currently from a provincial perspective as well as a board perspective. And we are still looking at challenges as a result of the pandemic in terms of navigating and operating our schools, addressing a learning recovery, mental health and special education, and additional supports in schools. This current year and in the past year, we've received a lot of provincial and federal grants that are one-time or timed investments, in particular as it relates to additional supports to in the classroom or to support virtual learning, mental health, special education, ventilation, as well as technology. And we are receiving in kind personal protective equipment, so PPE, that is centrally procured and delivered to our board, and then we deliver it to the schools. So that is a significant investment that we are not sure whether or not will continue in the next year. And we typically find out a little bit more in terms of what the grants look like in the spring. The biggest part of our revenue is made of grants for student needs, or GSN, and usually is released at the end of March, beginning of April, following the approval of the provincial budget. And at that time, we would know what our revenues look like, what has changed, if we have to make any major decisions. So it is a little bit late in the process, as by then we already have our staffing structures, we have projected enrollment, so we have an idea of what we need on the cost side, but we don't yet know where the revenue will be. In the report, we've attached the funding consultation guide that was released in October this year. And they're only looking at a few areas with regards to a reduction in an administrative burden and opportunities for efficiencies, opportunities to reduce the time to complete new schools or additions, and exploring the use of joint schools. That tells us there aren't going to be any major changes in the grants for student needs, so we don't expect anything very different from the current year, with the exception of the transportation allocation, which is currently under review. And that, to my knowledge, currently will be a reallocation among school boards. So there will be school boards that will receive more and school boards that will receive less funding. So that's something that we're closely looking at. Other concerns we have is the increase in inflation has driven costs up in our budget, and the grants for student needs don't usually keep up with inflation. So that's another area where we hope to see some increases year over year. From a board perspective, budget, the main objective of the budget is to align our resources to the multi-year plan, to the operational plan that supports those initiatives and the special education plan, as well as to be in compliance with all the regulatory provisions. From an enrollment perspective, we continue to see the trends that have been caused by the pandemic, where we were once in a growth region, and we could really look at an increase of 1,000 students year over year. We do not see those numbers. We see a few hundred students or a very steady year over year enrollment. So we believe that will continue into next year. We've already provided the projected enrollment to the ministry in November, and we are comparing that to the revised budget. So the revised budget for the current year will be actually coming to the board next week. So we'll be going through that in a bit more detail. But when we're looking at the enrollment, we are estimating a small decrease in the elementary panel of about 264 students and an increase of 446 in secondary. So that just gives us an overall increase of about 182 average daily enrollment. So that's a pretty status quo enrollment for a growth region such as ours. And this does not include international students, which we're monitoring still and have some promotional programs that we're hoping will take effect and increase those numbers. And the timelines for the key components of the budget development are also attached in the report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Trustee Nagoy. Does anybody have any questions? So I have one. Don't go away. Don't go away. So I'm just asking, so at the bottom of what you've given us, there is the education funding consultation guide. And there's quite a few questions included in that report that I'm assuming you answered and gave back to the people. So I'm just wondering, so some of them are really interesting in looking at shared use of schools, considerations to shorten the phase of planning construction. What types of things have we seen as opportunities for having, and I'm looking particularly at that shared use of schools with coterminous boards and joint use arrangements that might be in place or might have opportunity to be in place in the future?
Thank you for that question. And yes, we have sent in a response from the Association of School Business Officials, COSBO, as did the Trustee Association. And we do have discussions and collaboration when we submit those responses between the various associations. With regards to the joint use of schools, those do make sense in certain geographies and demographics, and it's mostly beneficial in an area that has growth but not sufficient to initiate sufficient need for land for a full school site or sufficient enrollment for an entire school. So in that case, a joint use between coterminous boards would make sense because they would share the cost of purchasing the land, they would share the outdoor space and some of the facilities such as library, so common facilities, and then there will be, for example, 2 different wings on where the students and the classrooms are. So that would make sense from a cost perspective as well as making it happen for the community. And General Manager Thibault could correct me, but we don't have those areas currently in our, based on growth, we have sufficient growth within new developments where we qualify for a full school. However, that's something that we continue to work with our coterminous board, and that is a little bit different from sharing space with community partners in the declining enrollment. So that wasn't really the intent of this question. It was more joint use of schools with other coterminous boards.
Thank you. We now have somebody else asking you a question. Trustee Oliver.
Thank you. Through your chair to Superintendent Ngoy. I'm trying to understand and reconcile your comment about enrollment with what we know about the development happening in Milton and Oakville. So is it is the enrollment projection or projecting to decrease because students are not moved in and enrolling yet in schools? Meaning the development is kind of lagging, and so we're not seeing those families moving in yet. Is that the reason for the decrease in enrollment projections?
So maybe I'll start and then pass it on to General Manager Thibault. We have seen a shift where the families with young children have resided. So while they were coming to Halton before the pandemic, whether it was the remote work, whether it was the price point of housing, a lot of families with young children or school-age children have seemed to be moving to more rural areas. And those school boards have seen an enrollment increase, which was not expected, whereas our growth has stagnated. So yes, there are a lot of units coming online, but not necessarily yielding the student numbers that we were expecting. That could be temporary. That could be something that continues. So I'm not sure that we have enough trends to determine. In addition, we've also seen some large grades graduating, and then the entry grades that take their place, there are fewer students in those, so they're smaller grades. So that decreases our enrollment as well. And homeschooling has been something that has increased over the past 2 years as well, especially for the entry grades. So JKs, SKs, if the families had an alternative, perhaps they were homeschooling during those grades as opposed to enrolling them in school. Not sure if there's anything else to add.
Through you, Madam Chair, to respond, but no, it pretty much encompasses the vast majority. But I think the biggest piece as to why we've seen a dip is that we're, as Superintendent Ngoy had pointed out, we're seeing a very large grade A cohort leave and enter into the secondary panel, which explains why secondary is seeing such an increase for next year. And then our JK and SK cohorts are declining, especially in a lot of the more established neighborhoods. So, in previous years, we've had the benefit of really, having growth outpace the declining enrollment in other areas. And now I think what we're starting to see is a little bit more stability where it's almost self-correcting itself. So it's certainly something we're going to have to look at moving forward and seeing if, as new development gets online, because there has been a little bit of a lull in the late 10s between like 17 to 19. There hasn't been as many developments going forward or being submitted. I think we're starting to see that curve come back now as things are starting to progress. So you'll note that in future years we are seeing that growth come back. Next year's just that little blip for now, what we're expecting.
Thank you. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to Superintendent of Business, Roxana Degoy. In the section that is page 6 of this report, where it's the introduction in the consultation document, I see that the government has listed in paragraph 2 that they're investing record funding for the 22-23 school year of over $26.6 billion, the highest investment in public education in Ontario's history. Would that $26.6 billion include the $200 per student catch-up grant given to parents recently?
That's a good point, because when we look at the financial analysis that the finance office is doing, they do include it. I'm not quite sure if it does, but what it does include is the growth.
Mm-hmm.
So growth will increase funding year over year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was usually a 2% component to non-salary type of costs to catch up with inflation, which hasn't really caught up with inflation. So year over year, it's expected to have an increase in funds.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, this would include some one-time funding as well that was provided during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to confirm whether or not the parents' side is part of this. I'm not entirely sure.
Follow up? I just bring that forward because that's money that is there to support students and their education, but is not controlled by school boards. And so the effectiveness of that money and the expenditures is hard to determine. I have a second question, if I may. And this would be directed to Director Ennis. We've heard tonight through this report that obviously student enrollment and numbers are so key to the transfer of payments from the Ministry of Education to our board. I'm curious about the impact of COVID on early leavers, that is to say those students who did not graduate but are lost from our system. Do we have a robust plan or project underway to reach out and try to find those students to get them back into the schools?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Gray. It has not risen to my level about students who have been lost in the system. It's something that we can certainly take a look at and see how we can re-engage anyone who was left early. Certainly re-engagement strategies have been supported over the years, and it's something that we can continue to do. But I'll ask Associate Director Asamini through the superintendents to check in with their schools around any concerns they might have around that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for Superintendent Ngoy? Seeing none, thank you very much for your report. Okay, that brings us up to item 5.3, notices of motion. So we do have one notice of motion for this evening regarding Human Rights Week. But before we proceed, we are going to need to suspend the rules because we're going to want to pass this motion during this meeting. So I'm going to put a motion on the floor and ask people to move in second. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees suspend the rules of procedure in a board governance bylaw to consider report 22157 with the current agenda. Trustee Baxter, would you like to move that?
I would, yes.
And Trustee Amos, would you like to second that?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Is there any debate or discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to putting this motion forward?
Point of order. I don't understand why we think we need to suspend the rules. It's on the agenda. It's not an item that we would normally suspend the rules for. We're not spending money.
I'll pass this over to Manager Carrillo to explain.
Thank you, through the chair. The item was added to the agenda last night. It did not make the Thursday deadline to bring reports to
thank you.
The director's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Any objections to moving this motion? Seeing none, that motion passes by unanimous consent. So as mentioned, we have one notice of motion for this evening regarding, pardon me? Human Rights Week, and I'm going to graciously pass the mic over to Trustee Daniele and Trustee Oliver to give some background before putting the motion on the floor.
Thank you very much. This motion is before you as recognition of our Human Rights Symposium, which will be happening on Thursday, December 8th and Friday, December 9th. In past years, we have passed this motion ahead of time to declare this as Human Rights Week and Environmental Rights Week within the board. Because of the election and everything else, we did not get it to you in time. So this is kind of a retroactive, is in respect of the Human Rights Symposium, which will be happening for all grades 7 to 12 students and staff this week. It's our 4th annual one. It will focus on environmental rights. It will explore the interconnectedness of globalization, environment, Indigenous rights, human rights, and our collective responsibility to protect our planet. We do this every year because human rights is the work and the responsibility of all members of society. And as a board, we recognize the importance of bringing education and community partners together to engage in those vital conversations, to challenge our thinking. And the Human Rights Symposium provides that opportunity to examine important issues impacted by equality in the human condition and engage our schools. The timing of the symposium aligns with Human Rights Day, which is observed every year on December 10th, the day on which the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. And that's something that empowers us all. And so the work that's underway in the Halton District School Board serves to remind us of how we can take action in our daily lives to uphold the rights that protect us all. So I know that Trustee Oliver will be moving this, and we very much hope that you will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board declare the week of December 5th to December 9th, 2022 as Environmental Rights Week within the HDSB. Trustee Oliver, would you like to move this motion?
I move the motion.
Thank you very much. And Trustee Daniele, would you like to second it?
Thank you, I would.
Thank you. Is there any debate or discussion surrounding this motion? Seeing none. If everybody can go to their question, please, and cast their votes. Thank you very much. Trustee Zhang.
In favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Follow-up, Trustee Daniele?
As a follow-up, please know that it is open to trustees, and I certainly hope all of us will have a chance to take part in at least part of it, if not all of it.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us up to item 5.4, the director's report. Director Ennis, you have 5 items on your report, and I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening, trustees. It is good to be with you again to give a director's update. I continue to visit schools, and I'm probably up to about 100 schools by now. So I'm getting there. And, it is so exciting every time I go out to schools to see just the excitement in our students, the learning that's taking place, and the great things that are happening in all of our schools. There are things to be celebrated and excellence everywhere in our board. And so we ought to be very, very proud of that. And so I know that, Associate Director Salmini, myself, and all the senior team, we continue to lead the instructional core and to influence those who are leading our schools to focus on our multi-year plan and to make sure that great things continue to happen for our students. And students are telling us and telling me and all of us that indeed they are receiving that. So I'm grateful for that. The first item I have for you, in addition to what I just said, is the Elsie McGill running track update. I believe some time ago, Trustee Garretts, before she left us, asked for an update on this. And so I'm going to ask Superintendent Ngoy to respond.
Thank you. And we just have some information with regards to the cost and funding sources for a rubberized track. It ranges around $300,000 to put it over the current track. We do have the ability to use the school renewal funding, however, not for a new school for the first 5 years. So the recommendation would be to have it repriced in 2026 when we would be able to apply school renewal funding. I know there was some suggestions whether or not fundraising was a possibility from the community. And while that could be eligible source of funding, that creates a lot of problems for us. $300,000 of operating type of funding to be used for capital is going to be impacting our compliance room. It becomes committed capital and it doesn't have that amortization offset in our book. So if we were to do something like that for one school, and that would open up for more than one school, we would quickly be in quite a bit of trouble when we come to amortize those tracks or that capital funding from our accumulated surplus. So I would not recommend that we would do that. It would also cause inequities between schools that could fundraise and schools that could not fundraise. We do have the ability to use capital funding, so school renewal is capital funding. But we do have to wait 5 years from when the school has been opened for a new school only.
Thank you. We have some questions from the floor. Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. So I guess my question would be, what are those students running on now? And is it hard concrete? And are we concerned about injuries on to young legs? I'm very, very concerned about lifelong damages if they're not running on the correct surface. So I'm not really familiar with this. So if you could help me, I'd appreciate it.
So the current track is asphalt. Good.
I don't know.
Superintendent Frankovich might have an answer.
Superintendent Frankovich, you as a former athlete yourself.
Through you, Chair, to Trustee Daniele. It is an asphalt track. It is not used as frequently as schools with the rubberized track is what we're hearing. There are some concerns with the asphalt track around shin splints and things like that. So we have been communicating, Superintendent Fowler and I and Superintendent Barnes, to look at what we can do so that it is used in the meantime until such time that improvements can be made as per Superintendent Gaudet's message to us last month.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rocha.
Through the chair, I'm trying to understand something, and I may have misinterpreted. You mentioned that the community is not allowed to fundraise for the building of the track. So I know that in the past we've had school councils raise funds to build outdoor classrooms or to install outdoor classrooms or outdoor play areas or outdoor fields. So how is that any different than the track at Elsie McGill?
Just to clarify, I said that it's compliant, so we could fundraise. We don't recommend, because fundraising for capital expenditures means that we have unsupported amortization, that it will impact our compliance room from accumulated surplus. And it's a significant amount, because it may not just be the one track. Then it will be a lot of other things that we could fundraise for, at least those communities that can afford to fundraise those amounts. So yes, we could fundraise. However, the fundraising should be focused on operating things or capital things that are under $10,000. So that's where the difference is, where you would have seen something for an outdoor classroom. The items themselves may have been under $10,000. and the occasional one that we would capture here and there under that amortization wouldn't have been as significant. So this would be precedent setting if this was a direction to go. And I think the biggest message here and to the province is we need the benchmark for building new schools to reflect the true cost. Not being able to have a rubberized track or being in a position where we have to take elements such as a track out of a school is not acceptable, and it should be properly funded by the ministry. This shouldn't be one of those things that we consider under fundraising as above and beyond what public education is funding.
If I may just add quickly, one of the things, if I remember correctly, Elsie McGill's building, and correct me, Superintendent Fowler? The building itself was constructed in such a way that an indoor track could be put into the building. And I think there's some infrastructure there that in the future, that should funds materialize, that could also be another avenue, which is not something that I think any other school has, to the best of my knowledge.
Yes, I can confirm that I would have to, actually, I shouldn't say I can confirm. I do know that that was the initial plan, and then that there was some thoughts around building an indoor track. I know that right now the upstairs space is used for, they have a beautiful weight room and all of those things up there. It's actually a beautiful building on so many levels. And I can certainly confirm with Superintendent Gaudette with regards to whether that would be an option, because that would be a different opportunity for us to consider. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Ahmed.
Through you, Chair, to Superintendent Ngoi. Just wanted to ask you about the funding. Since the entire funding is not possible at this moment, can it be partial funding and partial fundraising by the community? Is that option on the table? Or not at all?
So the partial funding that would be from fundraising at the school level will still be causing us the same issue in terms of not having the supported amortization. So being, it's a bit of fund accounting. So it's a bit of a hybrid that we're looking at, because we are funded. If we have a non-cash expense, such as amortization, we have a deferred capital, sort of a revenue source that comes in to offset the non-cash expense. When we use unsupported funding, we get penalized by having to use our own funding to support amortization in the future. So even if it is partially funded through fundraising, that problem will be, for that portion of the cost, that issue remains. The other thing is, if we're only partially funding, we still have to wait until we can use proper capital funding in 2026 for the other portion. So it doesn't, and at that point it doesn't help because we do have sufficient school renewal to be able to work a $300,000 track into the annual plan in 2026. So we are not concerned we don't have the capital funding source, but the rules don't allow us to add to a brand new school within 5 years. The only way for fundraising that would be covered is the example is the Evergreen project that we had at Irma Colson. It's a third-party organization that is donating for something like that. That is considered supported. But if we fundraise at the school level, it's not. So if we can find a partner that would like to invest, we certainly could do it that way, but it has to be an organization as opposed to fundraising at the school level.
So what I understand is if we fundraise at the community level and make the company who builds the tracks donate the tracks, and the community pays to the company, and they do it. So it's one and the same?
if we fundraise at the community, it will be fundraised through the school. So that is the same result. If, for example, a contractor says, I'm going to build a track pro bono, it's a donation to the school, then I believe it would be covered. But we would not be able to do the fundraising for it.
Thank you very much. You're good? Thank you. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question through the chair to, I'm not sure who would be able to answer this tonight, but are all secondary schools in the Halton District School Board currently with a rubberized track except for Elsie McGill?
Superintendent Barnes.
Through the chair, Trustee Gray. From my knowledge, a good number of them are. For sure, it's secondary, are rubberized.
But it wouldn't be all.
Yeah, it's a good number. The majority.
Majority
are.
Not all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just as a follow-up, just from an equitable point of view, or equity with all schools and all facilities, sometimes new schools are held by others as who are jealous of all of the newness and all of the great facilities and all of the great things that come with a new build, and that a rubberized track might be bestowed upon a new school before perhaps an older school with maybe a cinder track or something even that provided more shin splints than a concrete track or whatever. I just put it out there as just a thought and a concern. But I'm sure maybe there's plans in the works for all schools to have a rubberized track. Thank you.
I'll just make another comment, Trustee Gray. The other similar thing would be not all our fields have the AstroTurf. And at one point in time, some got them, some didn't. So that's just something that we kind of build in long term. So it's another comparator.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers, Director Ennis, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. This time, I'm going to ask Superintendent Podgeback to introduce the multi-year plan video.
Good evening. I'm happy to present our equivalent of a Netflix teaser to our video series for this school year, highlighting what the multi-year plan looks like in the classroom. And this features Director Ennis talking about last year and bridging into this year in terms of these videos, many of which we showed to trustees last year. So this is a very quick 2-minute intro that cues up our 5 videos, one focusing on each pillar that will be coming very soon. Our first video will be on achievement, the achievement pillar, and that's already been filmed and is being edited right now. It features Superintendent Frankovich and a number of classroom-related footage. So if Kevin could cue that up.
Hello. Last year, we proudly released a series of videos highlighting the Halton District School Board's 2020 to 2024 multi-year strategic plan, where we explained the framework of this important document and why it guides everything we do, from instruction in the elementary and secondary levels to professional development for staff across the system. The plan is based on 5 areas of focus: learning and achievement, equity and inclusion, mental health and well-being, environmental leadership, and Indigenous perspectives and awareness. This year, we are excited to bring another series of videos designed to bring the multi-year plan into greater focus. We will be taking a closer and deeper look at the classroom level, showing how each of the 5 areas of focus in the multi-year plan are integrated and implemented into everyday instruction.
Through the Learning and Achievement area of focus, we provide innovative strategies that connect learning to the world and prepare students for a dynamic future. We will show you how that actually looks in the classroom. Through the Mental Health and Well-being area of focus, we enhance relationships and positive learning and work climates to help nurture a community where everyone belongs and feels safe. We will show you what that means in our classrooms and workspaces. It's important for the Halton District School Board to clearly lay out the principles and goals of our multi-year plan. It's even more important to show what it really means, how it engages all students and staff, and how this continues to help build a foundation of success. Our mission is to see every student learn, grow, and inspire together. Through the implementation of our multi-year plan, you will see how we do just that. We can't wait for you to explore this learning journey with us. Thank you.
I never like to see myself on video nor hear my voice. I don't know how many of you have that experience, but
if I could just add, these are shared broadly. All of the videos, they're shared with our principals with the ask of showing it quickly at a staff meeting. So we feel virtually all of our staff are seeing these. And we also communicate them out to the community via school messenger and post them on our websites as well. So we are looking forward to that and looking forward to sharing the next video as soon as it's ready with trustees. If I could go right into the next item, which is the director's annual report 2021 to 2022. This is a report required by the ministry annually to be presented and shared at board and posted on the board's website by the first meeting of December, which this is. It is a highlight of the year 2021-2022 and will be very similar to some of the things that have been shared in our organizational plan earlier. It is live on our website right now under the Board of Trustees, and you'll see in the menu Director's Report on the side. Is the link there, and it's very user-friendly. It's got some stats. You can click and expand fields, and it really reports our progress as a board via the pillars in the multi-year plan. I'm happy to, and of course I should have mentioned it will also be shared with the Ministry of Education. Happy to answer any questions on either of these.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Superintendent Podrick on these two items? See, oh, Trustee Gray.
Through the chair, very quickly. This is an excellent report, and I just love to know that this is being broadly seen by our parents. And I'm question to Superintendent Podrick, would our principals be putting links to this report in their weeklies?
We haven't specifically requested it. There would be nothing stopping us from doing that. It is reporting on the year that was in past, and sometimes we try to keep parents updated more in the current. Some may not see the relevancy of the year ago. However, I agree, it's excellent. We'd be happy to cue people that it's out there just through messaging or asking schools to message.
Thank you. There's just so much great news in this. Even if it is a year past, it would be just a wonderful way to boast about the huge success that happens every day here in this board. Thank you.
Yeah. And I should note too, the views in our videos were quite strong. They are being watched by many in the community. So that I wanted to add that in as well. That's why we're doing that next step and taking people into the classroom. So I appreciate the remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Podjabarek. And again, thank you so much for all your hard work on the videos. You and your team, I know, have put a lot of work into it to help support Director Ennis and his eloquent voice in his presentation.
Thank you for trying to lift my spirits. I'm going to ask General Manager Thibault just to speak to the Brock University lease agreement, just some update on that, and I have a couple others as well.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and to you, Madam Chair, and to the rest of the trustees. Just wanted to give a quick little follow-up on the Brock lease agreement. We executed today, so done. They're looking to begin occupying the space as early as April of 2023 up till August of 2024. There is room for an additional year insofar that they aren't ready to move to their ultimate location, which is at the to-be renovated former Robert Bateman High School. So our partners will be housed in our facility until we're partners in another facility down the street. So happy to take any questions, but some good news.
Thank you, and just want to once again thank all the trustees who've been involved in making this a reality. At this time, we have some sad news to report. Francis Longo, Guidance Secretary, most recently at Aldershot, passed away on November 5th to 6th. We lowered the flag in her honor on November the 10th. And she worked in a number of our schools in General Brock from February 2003 to June 2022. Also in from 2003 to 2022 September, she was guidance secretary at Aldershot. So General Brock and Aldershot were the schools that she worked in. She sadly missed. And so if we could just pause for a moment of silence for Francis. Thank you. May her memory live long into the future for everything that she's contributed to our students and our community. In other news, I just wanted to share some great news from the Canadian Cancer Society to congratulate our HDSB schools for fundraising efforts in the Relay for Life events this year. Iroquois Ridge, MM Robinson, White Oaks, together raised an incredible $152,000. And I am so proud to have received this letter from the director of the signature programs of the Canadian Cancer Society to thank our schools, creating hope for those who are living with and beyond cancer. So proud of our students, our staff, our community, and their supervisors for the hard work in contributing to this very worthy cause. So join me in thanking all these schools for great work. Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth, and that brings me to the end of my report tonight.
Thank you so much. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions for Director Ennis? All right, seeing none, we now move on to item 5.5, communication from the chair. As you note, there was a little bit of a black hole in my email. This has quite a few letters, most of them centering around capital funding and the sort of the disproportionality seen between the amount of money given and the amount of money needed. There's also a couple on bus safety and EQAO results. All of those letters are attached to the agenda. So there also is, Manager Carrillo and I sat down the other day to take a look at the schedule for meetings for this year. It's attached to the agenda that you can also take a look at. It gives you an idea. There are a couple of shifts during the year, starting off with December, but you can have a look at the dates for the meetings for the rest of the year and adjust your calendars accordingly. Okay, that brings us up to item 5.6, committee reports. I'm pretty sure there are none, but do we have any committee reports? Oh, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Just wanted to advise the audit committee members that we are looking at preparing training for the audit committee for this year, and I'm hopeful that we will have training before we have our first meeting, because there is a lot to know about audit committee and the ins and outs of it. So looking forward to working with you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other reports? Seeing none, that brings us up to trustee questions and comments. Are there any any questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Daniele.
Thank you very much. This comes out of the OPSPA meeting. In our education finance report, we were talking about Bill 23, the Ontario More Homes to Build Faster plan. Obviously, that's of a concern for a lot of school boards because of the close correlation between residential and development and any impact that there might be on the education development charge gap. We were told at that point that the Ministry of Education has invited GTA boards to participate in a working group to provide input and advice on the development of an urban schools growth framework. And Halton is, I know, as my understanding, is one of those GTA boards. So my question is, and I know that I believe they've already met last week. I'm just curious who our representative on that working group will be, and if we would be receiving any reports from that working group, if the ministry will allow that, because sometimes they embargo the information.
So we have not received an invitation?
It would be staff.
Staff.
It's not trustees, it would be staff. So I'm curious what staff would be on it and if there would be any reporting back to trustees about it, if that's going to be, because it's not always allowed by the ministry in their working groups.
All right, thank you. General Manager Thibault.
Through Chair Shuttleworth to trustees, we have two members. There is Michael Wildfong from the Capital Branch, as well as myself, dealing with property matters. So we are part of the committee. Last week, the meeting was more of a formality to get us ramped up and to better explain certain requirements to be part of the committee. One of them is to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So unfortunately, until we've come to the conclusion of that urban framework working group, we won't be able to provide any updates. But certainly if you have any questions with regards to Bill 23 in general, as it relates to what potential impacts that may have on us, I'd be happy to provide some commentary on that outside of the scope of the working group.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Vice Chair Rocha.
Through you, Chair. Seeing as how the striking committee report as amended was approved tonight, how soon will trustees be notified by the respective superintendent as far as when is the first meeting and perhaps the next follow-up meeting? Because I know some committees are meeting as early as tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Vice Chair Rocha. We are going to, after this meeting, all the superintendents would be advised to reach out to the various members of the trustee body and to organize the meetings as soon as possible and to get things moving.
Thank you. Trustee Oliver.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the Director. I have a question about the new Encore development in Oakville, which is on the former grounds of the Sowet Golf Course. We know that the students there are placed at Heritage Glen and Abbey Park. That development is still growing and families are moving in. And I've had a couple of phone calls and emails from parents wondering when and if a new school be built in that neighborhood.
Thank you. Through the chairman, I ask General Manager Thibault to comment on that.
Through Madam Chair, to Trustee Oliver. So with regards to that, right now as part of our LTAP, we have identified that as being a feasibility study about a year or two prior to the option date expiring for that facility. So I think it's off of memory. I think it's about 2025. We want to just essentially reach a conclusion as to whether or not that site will be required. One of the concerns we have, and one of the limitations of it, is that albeit Heritage Glen and Abbey Park might be seeing capacity issues in the future, other surrounding schools, namely in the West Oak area, Palermo, and another few schools within very close proximity, they do have quite a bit of capacity left over. So one of our concerns is that, albeit we may, that community may generate significant enrollment, we're not entirely convinced as of yet with our current yields that's enough to warrant a new school. Moreover, we should have enough capacity in around surrounding schools to accommodate them. So, albeit we protected for the school site to see what yields would come in at, just to make sure we have it if we need it. We're going to wait a little longer to see how the development continues, how many students are being generated, and make a decision later as to whether or not that site and therefore that school will be required at a later time. Because the last thing, I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, thank you. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Regarding the disciplinary committee, we normally have training for all trustees on how disciplinary committee works and how a disciplinary hearing is to be conducted. And we have brand new trustees sitting around the table who may be called upon to sit on a disciplinary committee sooner rather than later. So I think it might be wise for us to schedule some training for trustees before too long, perhaps by the end of January, if possible. I know that January will be a busy month, but we have to get the wheels on the bus, as it were.
Thank you, Trustee Collard. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, we are planning to do a full session in January. It's usually done in January at a committee of the whole meeting, I believe. But in addition, knowing that we may have some hearings coming up, now that the committee has been formed, we will be meeting with the trustees who are actively sitting on the committee. And that is probably going to come up very quickly, as in next week. So, Brent Cookwell and myself will be reaching out to the committee members and going over all of the processes and procedures. And then in addition, all trustees will receive training and information in January. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Trustee Gray.
That's okay. I had my question answered just by the last comment that all trustees would get training. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? Wonderful. Seeing none, we are now on to public questions. So during the pandemic, we as trustees made a commitment to ensure that on the HDSB website, there was a button on the live stream page for a link at the bottom of tonight's agenda to allow members of the public to ask questions of the board. Questions may be answered during this meeting, particularly those related to the agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together. Questions will not be attributed, and when necessary, a notation will be made that multiple people have asked the same questions. Any questions that contain language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. So Vice Chair Rocha has been keeping her eye on the question list for this evening. So Vice Chair Rocha, are there any questions this evening?
Yes, there was one question earlier on this evening. It had to do with boundaries. And General Thibault did answer the question. So if the viewer is still General Manager Thibault answered the question. So if the viewer is still watching, that question was answered around 7:45 p.m. And that was the only question.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Rocha. So for everyone watching, there are several ways to be heard by the Board of Trustees, remembering that our purview is governance. So there is the question and answer portion of the meeting. You may also choose to delegate the board, but optimally and the best way to go about getting your concerns raised is to reach out directly to your local trustee. Trustee contact details are available on the hdsb.ca website. Seeing that, our agenda is now exhausted. Thank you so much for everybody engaging in the meeting, and I am now going to call this meeting adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.